Well, you've always made it. The final session before we have a final round of networking connections and then leave for the day. I hope you found value in our speakers and what they've provided over the course of the day, and that you've made connections that can help drive you forward to success. But before we wrap up, there's one more topic we need to discuss, and it might be one of the most important ones of the day: purpose. Now, purpose is what makes the job worth going to, the relationship worth investing in, the hobby worth pursuing and perfecting, and a life worth truly living. Purpose means aligning what you do with why you do it. And our presenter today is an excellent example of doing just that. Nicole Winget is the Dean for Adult and Online Education at Campbell University and an instructor in Homeland Security and Criminal Justice. A 20-year U.S. Navy veteran, Nicole began as an enlisted information technology specialist and now serves as a commander and executive officer in the Navy Reserve. Outside of work, she supports several military and academic boards and serves as VP of Communications for Operation Enduring Warrior. And today she's here to talk to you about the meaning of finding meaning in your next phase. Nicole, welcome to the stage of the Vet Summit.
Hello and good evening or afternoon. I know it's 4:30 on a Friday, so I appreciate you being here. Thank you for that warm welcome. As she mentioned, my name is Nicole Winget, and I'm going to open up a slide deck because I like to keep us on task with some slides. So give me just a moment. So we're going to be talking this afternoon about purpose mapping, aligning your skills with your mission. So first, I want to kick off with who I am. I always tell my students that I think I owe you a duty to let you know why I'm the one standing up here with any level of authority. She covered most of my wickets. I am a Navy officer. I've been in for 22 years and counting. I picked the background because I'm affectionately what we call a sand sailor. All of my deployments have been to the Middle East. I only have 13 days of sea time. Don't tell my shipmates that. They like to make a ton of fun of me for that. So I've been enlisted. I've been an officer. I've been an executive officer. I'm about to just finish my tour as my executive office tour as with Northcom Intelligence and moving over to U.S. Fleet Forces in Norfolk. So I've seen Afghanistan. I've seen Kuwait. I've seen some other areas. My previous career was a criminal defense attorney. And then after I returned from Afghanistan, I decided to make the Fort Bragg, Fayetteville area my home. And I now work for Campbell University. I run our adult and online education division, which includes our two military campuses at Fort Bragg and Camp Lejeune. We also have a 100% online program. And we actually have two campuses within North Carolina prisons as well, what we call our Second Chance Initiative. About 70% of our adult and online students are military or military affiliated. So I get to work with this awesome population every single day. And I myself have done military transitions several times through my career. If you've done any reserve time and you've been mobilized, you have to go through the transition process every single time you come off of deployment. So I have been through the job hunting and the transitioning and working with your family. My significant other is a 24-year Army veteran. And for the first about 5 years of our relationship, we were high-fiving each other on the flight line between deployments. It's kind of weird. He's home now because he's retired and he's a firefighter. And there's some days when I'm like, when are you going on deployment? I need my break. But I joke. I love him very much. So my experience has come with spending a lot of time thinking about what my purpose is, what my mission is. And so we're going to talk a little bit today about what that is and how you can align your purpose and your skill sets and your mission to find a job that brings you that sense of mission that we all have when we're in the service and connects you to that purpose that drives everything you do. So one of my roles is Professor Winget, and I teach at undergrad in the Homeland Security and Criminal Justice departments. I'm also a law professor with trial advocacy. So I teach via the Socratic method. I love having conversations. So if you have any comments you want to make, if you have thoughts, put them in the chat. There's going to be some moments where I ask for volunteers. If you want to raise your hand, you can come on stage with me and we can talk through some of the questions that you have. And I'm going to give you some prompts to work on too, and ask you to come on stage to talk about them. So we haven't tried it yet, though. So if you do raise your hand, bear with me while I figure out all the button clicking. I used to be an information technology specialist in the Navy, but that was kind of a long time ago. So I know just enough to keep myself in trouble. Yes, and I said keep myself in trouble. That's usually what happens. So I've got to share my life motto with everybody. I know the Recon Network team has heard me say it roughly a million times, and anyone who works for me hears it on a regular basis. My life motto is Semper Gumby. Yes, that is stolen from the Marines motto. It stands for always flexible. And I wanted to kick this off with that because as you are transitioning from active duty or into the civilian career, or maybe switching careers and you're a vet alongside with me, you know the importance of being adaptable and being able to fill the mission that you're given at any minute of the day, and sometimes it changes 24 times a day. So I wanted to kick off this with the spirit of Semper Gumby. We're going to be talking about mission and purpose and skills. And remember that they're all adaptable. They're all going to change depending on what you're doing. And I tell my students now, I'm still trying to figure out what I want to be when I grow up. So I'm constantly looking for ways to refine my skills, my mission, and my purpose. So remember, Semper Gumby. I have 2 different friends who have gotten Semper Gumby tattoos after hearing me speak. So if you end up getting a Semper Gumby tattoo after this, please make sure you connect with me on LinkedIn and show me the pictures. You don't have to get a Semper Gumby tattoo. Okay, so what is purpose mapping? So purpose mapping is a systematic way of thinking about your skills, what your goals are, and what your passions are, and aligning them together so that what you do in your employment and volunteer work leverages those skills to bring you energy and joy. It's a way to discover your why, figure out how that why applies to what you want to do and where you want to do it. That's also going to be incredibly important. It helps you identify your unique purpose. We're going to spend some time talking about ways to visually do this as well as just talk through it. Some people need to write things down. Some people like to draw. I have an embarrassingly large amount of notebooks that I start to write in, and I do a lot of note taking, and then I get another cool one and end up starting a new one before finishing one because I like that tactile writing things down. One of my students loves using Google Slides, and he makes all his purpose maps on Google Slides. So there's not one way to do it. There's not a right way. There's not a wrong way. And we are going to talk about a few different ways to do that. But the first thing I want you to think about, and if you have thoughts on this and you want to contribute in the chat, I want you to take a moment, just pause. And I want you to think of a time where you felt truly fulfilled. And what I mean by fulfilled is that moment where you're just like, man, I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. This is so cool. It may have felt that way for days. It may have felt that way for just an hour, but take a moment, kind of think through that moment. And when you have that moment locked in your mind, I want you to write down or think of what are some of the key words that pop into your head about what you were doing in that moment. Were you reading? Were you speaking publicly? Were you at a control desk helping a mission execute? Were you out in the fields? Were you jumping out of an airplane? I am not airborne, but I've got a lot of airborne people in my life, and I know that's a really big deal. What were you doing when you had that sense of fulfillment? Just take a moment, kind of ponder that, and jot down some notes. And again, if you want to share in the chat, you can. You don't have to. But I definitely want you to think about that and hold on to that for the rest of the presentation. So let's talk a little bit about what I mean by purpose. I Googled this and said, what does purpose mean? I had a little chat with Chat GPT too. I know I'm an AI fan. And I asked, what does purpose mean to people? And man, I got some great quotes. I think my favorite is something I had actually heard of before, but it's the Japanese phrase ikigai, Ikigai. It's a reason for being. I love that word. Another quote was, "Why you exist and what impact do you want to make on the world?" Brene Brown asked, "What is your authentic you? What makes you feel energized?" That energy can really speak to what your purpose is. Viktor Frankl, quote, "He who has a why to live for can bear almost any how." And for those of you who have worn the uniform, I bet that probably resonates with both of you, with most of you. If we can look to our left or our right and see our brothers and sisters in arms and know the why, we know we can figure out the how. And then Simon Sinek, if you've not read his books, I highly recommend his books. But it's the reason you exist beyond just making money. Why are you here? And then to expand on that, what is the core belief that drives individuals and organizations, inspiring action and loyalty? And I love that word, inspire. You'll see it later. And then last but not least, William Damon, a stable and generalized intention to accomplish something that is meaningful to the self and of consequence to the world beyond the self. So just some examples of what purpose means, and hopefully one or two of those resonated with you, and you can use that to help figure out what your purpose is. So we're going to talk through some tasks today. We're going to talk about how to define your life mission. I know that seems huge, my life mission, but it's okay. We'll get there. Identify areas that you want to impact. We're going to note down our core skills, and then we're going to talk about where do they all connect? How do we put this all together to look for employment and volunteer work that helps drive that purpose? And don't forget my friend Gumby. I clipped part of the intelligence cycle. I teach this quite a bit, and I've done this as part of my career for a very long time. But why I picked the Intel cycle is that the Intel cycle isn't a perfect circle. You start through some phases, and then information comes in this way, and then you hop back and you go in this part, and then information comes in this way, and then you think you're getting close to the finish, and then all of a sudden you get an inject, and you got to go back a few steps. So we call it a cycle, we call it a process, we're listing tasks, but know that this is something that you're going to modify, interject, exchange things throughout the entire process. I will tell you, I redo this process at least once a year, if not more. Dealing with the government shutdown, both being a reserve officer and working in higher education, the last 2 months, I had to pivot a little bit. I had to tweak my purpose just a little bit to make sure that I was serving the needs of the people that I want to serve. So it's important to keep that flexibility, that understanding that things are going to change. Okay, so first task. And again, this is task one, but it's not, this is something you can, modify and grow from through this whole process. So your purpose, why is this important? Because your purpose can motivate you. It can help you find resilience. If you know what your purpose is and you get a little kick in the knee, you can hold on to that purpose and be resilient and come back from whatever issue might have popped up. And it can really grow to career satisfaction. Whew, it's been a long day. So I'll use myself as an example. I didn't quite really realize this about myself until recently, but I had the pleasure of seeing one of our alumni speak to our board of trustees. And she mentioned that, if you've ever met Dean Winget, she's excited about everything. And everybody kind of laughed because I'm very energetic. If you haven't picked up on that, I talk with my hands, I like to move around, all that kind of stuff. But I didn't really realize until that point that I express the fact that I have found my purpose in higher education and military service, and it reflects in everything I do. I get excited about it. I want to get up every morning and do the job. Now, I'm not going to lie. Anybody who says, I love my job all the time, is probably not telling the truth. I have my days. We all have our days. But what do? I rely back on that purpose. So here's my question for you. And I'd love to bring somebody on stage. So if you're at all interested in this, you don't have to, but I'd love to see some of you. If you had to describe your life mission in one sentence, what would it be? And I'm going to share mine in a minute as we get closer to the end of the slide. Um, so I'll give you an example. But anybody have anything they want to share? If you don't want to come on screen, that's absolutely fine. If you'd rather put it in the chat, please feel free to put it in the chat. But what is your mission? What is one sentence that summarizes what you want to accomplish in life, what you want to work towards? So give that some thought. If, as we're going through the presentation, you're like, hey, I've got it, I want to speak up, pop up that hand, I'll bring you on stage and we'll talk about it. So I struggled a little bit when I was preparing this because part of me thinks you should wait to do your mission until you've figured out your skills and how they plug in. But I think framing your mission early helps you really identify some of those skills. So again, don't think this is has to be done first. So as we talk through this stuff, you might find a few other things. So the next thing you're going to do is your skills. And I highly recommend that you do this in writing, and you don't have to do this right now, but start to think on it. I want you to sit down with a lined piece of paper, or if you want to type it up on a Word document, start listing every skill you can think of and think big. I use the image of construction because there's so many different skills that go into building things. But it's not just physical skills. It's not just what you can do with your hands. Are you a good public speaker? Do you write well? Are you funny? Are you the person that can give comfort when people need comfort? Going back to the technical and the trade skills, can you fix somebody's computer when they clicked on that link that they were never supposed to click on? Can you help them access their military email when the VPN is down? If you can do that, please reach out to me because I'm having some Navy email issues right now. But seriously, think of all those skills. What are you adept at? It can be mastery level. It can be mediocre level. Hey, it can even be, I'm just getting ready. I just have learned how to code LOL in SQL or something like that. Think of those skills and start to write them down. And keep that notebook. And over the next few days, maybe over the weekend, maybe early next week, I want you to pull that notebook out again and continue jotting down every skill that you can think of. And this does a few things. One, it's going to help you with this exercise of purpose mapping. But two, it's going to help you really see all the traits that you have, all the things you've accomplished, all the skills you've learned. And I was listening to the opening keynote speaker earlier today, and he was talking about how us as veterans, we need to brag more about the fact that we're vets. And I completely agree with him on that because we learn so much when we serve. And it's never what we thought our job description was going to be. I'm wondering who in this room signed up for a particular MOS or an NEC, as we call it in the Navy, and that's all you did your career. I'm betting not a single person. I was an IT and I was gate guard. I was the Navy historian. XO, you have to learn how to yell at people a lot. That was a skill that's not on my service record. That's a joke. I don't yell that much. But if you've been an XO, you know what I mean. But think about that. Think of all the little things that you had to learn to do as a military member. And think about how you can capture that both in a resume format, as well as when you're interviewing and you're talking to people. So don't put yourself in a box that's just based on the title. Think of all the things you know and all the things you learn. Now, if you're willing to share in the chat, or if you want to raise your hand, think of, for this exercise, your top 5 skills. What are the 5 things you're best at? give that some thought. Maybe on the list that you've been writing while I'm talking, you highlight the 5 that come up first. Maybe just put a little star by it. And think about those skills and tie them back to that initial question I asked. When have you felt that you're living your mission, that you're feeling fulfilled? And kind of compare those top 5 skills with if any of the feelings you have when you feel fulfilled tie together. I'm betting if you give it enough thought, there's some overlap there, if not some pretty aligned sets. I'll pause for just a moment to give you all just, if anybody wants to share. Okay. So last, but definitely not least, it's taking these skills that we've talked about. It's taking those goals that we want, that mission we want to create, and figuring out how to plug them together. And I've seen this done in, I think just today, 6 different ways. So again, I said it earlier, I'll say it again. There is no right or wrong way or there's no wrong way to do this. There's many right ways to do this. I like the visual of the Venn diagram, and I'll show you that in the next slide where I talk about my mission and purpose. But think about how your skills align with that mission. And the model that I've heard that has really resonated with me is in almost a math formula. It's your skills plus your passion plus who you want to impact that equals purpose. So I've got all these skills. I know I want to help this group of people. So in my case, I love working with students and I love working particularly with junior enlisted and junior officers. So that's my impact I want to have up high. And then with my passion for leadership and public speaking, and I am a collector of random knowledge. If you're ever in pub trivia, give me a call. I'm super good at winning buckets of wings. Putting those all together so that my purpose aligns with those 3. So we'll pause for just another moment. Think about that a little bit. And then I apologize, this might be a little bit small, but I needed to capture everything on this, but hopefully it gives you an idea. So this is my mission statement. As I sit here today, again, I cannot tell you how many iterations I've had of this, but it has more or less stayed with these themes. My purpose is to inspire others by demonstrating effective leadership, sharing knowledge that empowers growth, and radiating positivity to create a lasting impact on our world. And on our world's pretty broad. Like I said, some days I'm hoping just to have impact on my office or my classroom. But really, my purpose is to try to make the world a better place through these 3 things. Now, I think in 3s, just how my brain works. So you can see I kind of have 3 main categories: leadership, knowledge, and positivity. You can have 2 categories. You can have 50 categories if you want. This is just my example of the categories that I have. And the next thing is you take all of your skills that you wrote down earlier and you figure out where they plug in to this diagram. And again, here I did a Venn diagram because I love the visual of how they overlap, but you can make a chart, you can do Excel, you can pull out crayons and construction paper and draw it on there. Whatever speaks to you, whatever makes you feel connected with this exercise. Now, I'm going to admit, I only put down the skills that I knew fit in all 3 categories. 1, because I wanted you to be able to kind of see what this slide looks like. But 2, to make a broader point of how it kind of all fits together. So in my case, I have the 3 different shades of my Venn diagram. I wrote my skills down and I kind of put the colors that I thought fit with the shades. And then as you can see, they all come together in the middle. They all apply to all 3 of these areas to help fill my purpose. So for example, curiosity. which I know seems like kind of a silly skill, but I think it is very important to growth and development. And hopefully, if you didn't think in the phrases of, doing things like curiosity and beyond technical skills, hopefully this helps give you some ideas. But being curious obviously leads to knowledge, sometimes more knowledge than I want, but leads to knowledge. I think it is a very strong and important skill for leadership. It makes me want to learn more about leadership. It makes me want to learn more about my people that I'm leading. And then I think curiosity brings along with it, most of the time, positivity. Sometimes curiosity kills the cat, but more often than not, it brings in positivity. So all of those align, bringing that curiosity to have the direct impact on my purpose. So again, this is just my example. It does not, it's not exhaustive. I have a few more skills than this. I'm a very good dog walker. I like to run a lot. That pretty much, but these for the exercise purposes, I hope makes the point. So if you aren't already doing it, I highly encourage that you start to sketch your purpose map. It does not have to look like this. You can do it on the back of a napkin if you want, but putting this down and having it somewhere you can refer to can be really powerful. I made my leadership knowledge positivity. I actually made a PowerPoint slide with different kind of memes uh, to kind of represent what I believe speak to. I made that a PowerPoint slide and I actually have it as my desktop on my laptop. So every time I log into work, I am reminded of the three core tenets of my mission, my purpose. And one, it's fun because I get to see cool memes that I think are entertaining, but it is that constant reminder. Every time I reduce my desktop, every time I boot up in the morning, I get reminded this is my purpose. It's also helpful when I'm having those days where I'm like, what am I doing? I've just been yelled at for the fourth time by somebody who doesn't like, class offerings, or, the government shut down and I've got to take care of all my people who work for the federal government and I can't drill. I minimize the desktop and I just kind of refocus and remind myself what my purpose is. And most of the time, it boots me, and I get back on the horse. Occasionally, I need to follow it up with a walk around campus just to chill a little. But in general, it's a good resource. So one thing I want you to think of, and again, I'll once again invite anybody who wants to put it in the chat or come up live. What's one small step you can take this weekend to move closer to your purpose? Think about that. So for me, I have to write a paper that I've been, dragging my feet on writing. But I know that if I can get this paper published, it's going to help me with my overall knowledge and assist my students in understanding some of the things that I'm studying. So I am going to take one small step this weekend by promising myself I'm going to write one paragraph of that paper, just one. I might get motivated and want to write more, but all I am requiring of myself is one paragraph. And sometimes one paragraph is too much. Sometimes you just need to write one sentence. But think about what is one small step you can do this weekend to move closer to your purpose. Okay, I'm going to open up the floor to questions. If anybody has any questions or comments, I would love to hear it. Again, I know it is the end of the day. You're probably chomping at the bit to get some networking done. I do have my LinkedIn in my profile. Let me share my email. That is my email. I genuinely mean, please reach out to me. And you do not have to reach out to me in the role of, hey, Dean Winget, if you want to talk about military transition, if you want to show me your purpose map and we can talk about how to refine it. I do love working with people, especially my brothers and sisters in arms. So don't hesitate to reach out. And we got a great question. Thank you, Recon Network, for sending this my way. How do you recommend striking a balance between the need for a paycheck and the need for a meaningful career? That is a great question and a pretty heavy question. So I think we all have to be realistic. We all have to feed ourselves and our families. And you sometimes the job market isn't great. You get into a place that you may, don't love right away. And I hope nobody thinks this is too cheesy, but one of my philosophies is that you can always learn something from every situation you have. So I think the cheesy answer is you've got to make the best of what you have and learn from whatever experience you're in, even if it's not optimal, but always have a growth mindset. So you might be there's a theory called the ABCDs of jobs. A is any job, B is better job, C is career, D is dream job. Let's say you're in your A job. Be thinking, is there anything in this A job that I can leverage to make it a B job? And so forth and so on. If you're in that A job and you're like, man, I don't see a B, let alone a D, you still gotta pay the bills. You've still gotta, earn that paycheck. But maybe spend a couple minutes each night or an hour on the weekend seeing how you can leverage that A job to find the B, C, or D job. I will tell you, I've had a lot of different careers, and I didn't land on my career until, you know, a little bit later than most people do when I got into higher education. My job as an attorney was a great job and I loved it, but I found out it wasn't really my dream job. You've got to be realistic. I'll go back to that. We've all got to pay the bills, but don't be negatively realistic. Really be leveraging your skills and your networking to be looking for, I would say, at least shoot for that C job, if not that D job, and take what you can from those A and B jobs to learn and network. And I know we hear this so often, but I cannot stress this enough. And I don't mean network just like going to mixers and stuff like that. Get out there and volunteer. I volunteer with a vets organization called Operation Enduring Warrior. I volunteer with a couple other legal organizations, and the skill set that I've gotten from those is awesome. I've learned what I like to do. I never knew I liked being a marketing person, and then I became the marketing person for my vets org, and suddenly it's one of my favorite things to do. But you'll meet people that can help you find that C and D job. The old adage goes, it's who you know. It's not really who you know. It's who knows you. So get out there, make people see you, know you, and trust you. Get to know your work environment, get to know how you do things, get to know your personality. I mean, if you keep a positive mindset and always try to learn from whatever situation you're in, I think you'll strike that balance and you'll find that you're in the C job, if not D job, pretty quickly. And again, I am not saying Pollyanna, like everything's great all the time. I get it. But again, if you've served for more than 2 days, you know that not every day is sunshine and rainbows, and you've got to push through and learn from what you can. But I'll bet even on the bad days, you have memories that have a little light of good in them as well. Thank you for that question. That was great. And thank you for the second to that question, Gregory. That's a very good second. I hope that was somewhat helpful. What other questions? Okay, well, thank you all very much for participating. A huge thank you to the Recon Network. I give you 3 hearty cheers in hosting events like this. It's so important to speak to our veteran population and let employers know what we bring to the table, because my goodness, vets have a skill set, adaptability, and personality that benefits any room they walk into. So I hope everybody enjoys the networking session. Please reach out on LinkedIn or email if I can ever be of any assistance. And again, Recon Network, thank you very much. I hope everybody has a wonderful weekend.